I'm going to show you how I transformed this space into this garden with stone planters.
If you're anything like me, you're always dreaming up garden designs. And I love building beautiful designs. Right now, I'm going to go through how to lay out a garden design so that you can build your garden bed. Okay, here's our layout for our kitchen garden. We've got a 7-foot wide, almost 17 feet long. And then these ones are 7.5 feet wide. There's going to be a 7-foot wide entrance here that you can bring a skid steer with. Then there's a walkway that way, the fountain right here, and then an arch trellis right there, and then an arch trellis right here. All right, so the measurements for those two planters, 1, 2, are 7.5 by 13, 3 feet in between, and 7.5 by 13. Okay, first you need to have the right tools. I always wear gloves. That's the first thing. My hands get trashed in the garden. A tape measure, so important. You need to know where you're putting your design in relation to your surroundings. So if it's close to the house, have one side of the bed equidistant to the house as the other side of the bed. Everything should be symmetrical and evenly spaced. Very important to have a tape measure. Next, you're gonna have some string that you put between posts so that you can create straight lines. String's very important. My husband taught me that. A couple times I tried to build stuff without string, and I quickly learned that he was right. Always go the way of with string so that you can lay something out perfectly straight. You're going to be putting your string on stakes, so find some stakes. Doesn't have to be this, it can be anything sturdy, it could be something way smaller. I'm going to drive these in just a few inches, and that's sufficient. Then we wrap the string around the stakes, and you're going to need some type of hammer so you can put this in the ground. And that's all you need to lay out your garden design, garden bed design. Let's get started. I got my garden laid out. I did have some weirdness with my measurements that I had to double check a couple times, and that's part of the process. You got to measure and double check and measure again, because sometimes your numbers aren't working out, and that's part of the process. But make sure that you take the time, sure it's perfectly done, so that in the end you are happy with your result and it's perfectly lined up and symmetrical, and the lines are straight, and that will make all you happy, and your product will look more professional. It is an amazing morning. It is time to gather some rock for my new garden bed.
The key to stacking stone successfully is to have really flat stone. As flat as you can get, the better. Before laying out the garden, we prepped the ground by laying down a layer of weed barrier and then 4 inches of decomposed granite. We like both the aesthetic appeal, but also the functionality for our stone garden bed. It is a perfect medium for laying out any type of garden box. It allows you to level and adjust the stability of the base layer of rock, which created a great foundation for this stone bed. At this stage, you may also consider putting a layer of chicken wire or welded wire to keep the critters out of your beds before laying the stone. I wish I had done this for our beds. I worked my way along building the stone garden bed one stone at a time. First building the base layer, as a more stable foundation and then adding flatter rocks on top. But the key was ultimately having flat rocks that can sit on one another without tumbling over. I found it easier to lay larger stones every few stones for the base layer to quickly build up the wall, but also have a really strong foundation. Don't worry if it doesn't feel really solid, because as you fill the space with dirt, you will then be able to push the stone back into the dirt to create more stability. The other option at this stage is to add mortar, but that is a whole different beast, and we opted not to do that. We will also be able to consider this a movable garden bed if we decide to change our layout in the future. I highly recommend moving your stone as close to the location that you're setting it as possible. I decided to remove the DG, or the decomposed granite, in the garden bed simply to save it and use it in other places in my garden. We did the same process for 2 more garden beds, and these garden beds are huge. To say the least, it was exhausting, and it took us several days to a week to complete the whole project. Before laying soil, we added a layer of rock or gravel to the base of each garden bed. We did this to help increase the drainage in each bed. We then added garden soil and some extra mushroom compost to the soil to create a great fertile foundation for our garden. Lastly, I pushed the top layer of stone back into the soil to ensure we have plenty of stability in our garden bed. I hope that you have enjoyed this video about building these stone garden beds. I have to tell you, it is my favorite place to be. It is gorgeous out here. I am so enjoying planting my plants in these garden beds and hanging out in the garden. Sometimes I just sit out here and listen to the birds. It is beautiful. These garden beds turned out so amazing, and it is my new favorite place to be. If you liked my video, please push that like button. Take a second to subscribe and hit that bell so you get some notifications from my next videos.